In North Korea, losing a book can get you killed. And that's exactly what happened to Kim Jong-il's personal poet. His name was Jang Jin-sung, once Kim Jong-il's favorite writer, now a fugitive on the run. After accidentally losing a banned book, Jang and his friend Yong-min had no choice but to jump on a train out of Pyongyang, beginning one of the most dangerous escapes in North Korean history. Today we're continuing right where we left off, with Jang and Yong-min as they begin their desperate escape out of North Korea. Hi everybody, I'm Tony. Welcome back to my channel, where we tell some of the most unbelievable stories from around the world. Before we start, please smash that like button and subscribe to this channel. Lately, every time I talk about North Korea, this channel gets flooded with dislikes and nasty comments. Probably from the regime's internet army or people who don't exactly appreciate criticism toward the regime. So yeah, your likes helps keep this channel alive and annoys them at the same time. Now we're back to the story. Now Jang and his friend Yong-min just got on the train that took them all the way from Pyongyang to the northern border, to a town called Musan in North Hamgyong province. Now if you have watched other YouTubers who covered ways of escaping North Korea, you probably know there are only few ways to escape the country. And the main one is heading north, across the border with China. The southern border, the one with South Korea, is basically impossible, because it is DMZ, full of landmines, traps, and barbed wire with heavy troops on both sides. Anyone who tries to cross that is usually a soldier with nothing left to lose. There is also a less common route, by the sea, used mostly by fishermen trying their luck through the ports. But that's not our focus today. What I'm trying to say is that the most people escape through the northern border. If you look at a map, North Korea and China are separated by the Tumen River. In winter, the river freezes over, and the water level drops, and its narrowest point is only about 20 to 30 meters wide. If you can run fast on the frozen river, you can cross within seconds. So Jang Jin-sung and his friends Yong-min got on the train heading to Musan. From Pyongyang to Musan is about 700 to 800 kilometers on the map. In theory, that should only be a 10-hour train ride. But remember what I said in the last video? North Korean trains are never on time. A delay of 10 days, even 2 weeks is completely normal. This time their trip took 5 full days. That is brutal, because they could have been stopped and searched at any moment. But here's the case. Jang had a special pass from the Central Party. It has the highest level of clearance, so nobody dared to really question them. At every checkpoint, soldiers would board the train to check the documents. But as soon as they saw that Central Party ID, they would salute, bow, and just move on. So to be honest, reaching Busan in 4 or 5 days was already a blessing. If they had been delayed another week, they would have been in trouble, because by then, the arrest order would have reached the border. And once that happened, they could have caught before they even got off the train. So when they finally arrived in Busan, they went straight for the Tumen River, the border between North Korea and China. They started scouting the area, but soon realized it wasn't going to be that easy. Along the river, there was a guard post every kilometer. And within a few miles of the river, soldiers patrolled constantly. If they saw you wandering around, they would arrest you on the spot. But every time they got confronted, Jang and Yong-min would flash their official documents. The soldiers would immediately assume these two were important people from Pyongyang on a secret mission. That night, they walked along the frozen river until midnight. It was freezing. They were exhausted. They felt if they stayed any longer, they would just freeze to death. So they decided, this is time to go. But as soon as they stepped onto the ice, sirens went off. Spotlights lit up on the river. Soldiers came running with rifles pointing straight at them, yelling, "Stop! Don't move! One more step and we shoot!" 2 of them froze. They both were terrified. So they turned back halfway and got dragged straight to the nearest guard post. A lieutenant came over to question them. At first, the officer was really rude. But right away, Jang showed his special pass and his party badge. After seeing the badge, the officer's tone softened. He asked, "So, what are you guys doing here?" So Jang quickly made up a story. He said, "We're on a special mission from the Central Party. We came to deliver a secret document to Musan military base. It's just that the weather was freezing and we want to warm up at your post. So we stepped on the rice on purpose, hoping you would spot us and bring us in." But one of the soldiers certainly didn't buy it. He shouted, "That's a lie. They were already halfway across the river when we caught them." Jang snapped back, pretending to be furious. He yelled, "Shut your mouth! Do you even know who you are talking to?" The soldier froze, didn't dare to talk back. The lieutenant hesitated. He said, "All right, let's just call the headquarters and confirm." At that moment, both Jan and Yong-min broke into sweat. If that call went through, they would both be dead. But they got extremely lucky. The phone line was broken that day. The base couldn't reach anyone until the next day. But still, the lieutenant started getting suspicious. Then another officer, a second lieutenant, came in. Since he's second lieutenant, his ranking is lower than the officer was originally questioning them, but his family was powerful back in Pyongyang. He looked at them carefully and said, "You said you are on mission for the military, right? Then you must know So Jang-hwan." Jen froze. He never heard that name before. But his friend Yong-min stood up right away. He said, of course we know him. His father is party secretary of Kimchak City, right? He's like my brother. We're very close. Then he added, if you don't believe me, just call him right now. That did the trick. The second lieutenant smiled and relaxed. He was convinced they were from Pyongyang, rich kids on official business. Jan quickly played along. He put out some canned meats, a bottle of imported liquor, and some cigarettes from his bag. Hennessy, Marlboro, all luxury stuff. He knew when you are escaping, you always carry money and gifts. Bribes save lives. The officers were amazed. They had never seen such expensive alcohol before. They immediately treated Jan and Yong-min like VIPs. They drank together, laughed, and even called each other brothers. So by the next morning, the mood was completely different. The lieutenant smiled and said, forget about it. No need to make that phone call. You guys can just go. Just like that, they walked out free. After leaving the guard post, they stayed nearby for a while, thinking what to do next. They knew they couldn't wait much longer. If they stayed another day, they would be exposed for sure. So Jem made up his mind. He said, screw it, let's just go. They have let their guard down, this is our chance. Right after that, the two of them slipped out of the post and ran straight toward the river. They started sprinting across the ice. The soldier quickly realized they had been fooled. They started shouting, you bastard traitors! Then gunshots ran out. Bam! Bam! Bullets were flying, but none of them hit. You could hear them whizzing through the air, but nothing landed close. Jan and Yong-min kept running. They crossed the river, climbed over the hill on the other side. And they made it. They were safe. North Korean soldiers never cross into China. No matter what, they can't. It's forbidden. The two of them collapsed in the mountain, finally across the border. It was below minus 10 degrees Celsius, freezing cold. But for the first time, they could finally breathe. They lay there, hidden among the trees, watching carefully. They waited half an hour, maybe an hour, to see if any Chinese border patrol were nearby. But there was no one. The forest was completely silent. Then they turned to each other, hit each other's shoulder, and started crying. They hugged, shaking, tears streaming down their face. At that moment, they felt even if they died right there, it would have been worth it. That day was January 14th, 2004. The funny thing is that I remember that day so clearly. At that time, I was in the middle school, my very first year. And that day was my first ever date. We went to see Stephen Chow's Kung Fu Hustle. I was sitting there in the theater, holding her hands, watching the movie, totally nervous and excited. At the same exact moment, two North Koreans were deep in the frozen mountains of the Chinese border, holding each other and crying after finally escaping from their country. But that feeling of freedom didn't last long. They still had one big problem. They had to move deeper into China. They came up with a simple plan. Yong-min had a distant relative living in Yanbian, a city in northeast China. They thought, if we can just find him, maybe he can help us. Here's a quick side note. When you cross the border from Musan into China, you enter Yanbian Korean Autonomous Prefecture, a region where about 60 to 70% of people are ethnic Koreans. It's kind of like El Paso in the US, full of Mexicans. It's the same idea. Yong-min believed his relative there was doing well, maybe even rich. So their goal was clear, get to Yanbian and find that relative. But the problem was, they had no idea where to go. No map, no transportation, no guide. So Jang Jin-sung came up with an idea. In his backpack, he had a bunch of fancy clothes. Those were gifts from Central Party, back when he was still a trusted man. He put them on, hoping to look like a foreign tourist. The plan? Pretend to be South Korean tourists who got lost. Yeah, I know, not exactly a great plan. You can already tell this is about to go south very fast. So they walked about 10 kilometers and reached a small village. They saw a woman by the road. Since most people in Yanbian spoke Korean, Jan walked up to her and said, "Hi, we are tourists from South Korea. We just got lost. Can you help us get to the city?" The women just look at them for a second. Of course, she immediately figured out they're not South Korean. Without a word, she pointed towards another house and said, "Go ask over there." And that's when they realized their disguise had totally failed. They knocked on the door of the house she pointed. A tall, muscular farmer with darker skin and a cigarette in his mouth opened it. He said, "What's up? What do you want?" Jen said, "We came from Pyongyang. Can you help us get to Yanbian? If you do, I will pay you $700. The man didn't react at first, but the second he heard $700, his eyes lit up. He waved them in and said, "Hey, come on in, guys." Inside, the house was warm and cozy. There was meat on the table, livestock outside, vegetables in storage. They even have underfloor heating. Jen was shocked to see that even farmers living in the Chinese border could have such comfortable life. His name was Jong-il, an ethnic Korean who spoke with Hamgyong accent, the same accent from the northern part of North Korea. Jong-il had seen plenty of North Korean defectors before. He said, "Man, my house is right by the border. You people keep showing up here. But you guys certainly look different. And you really have that $700, right?" Jen nodded and handed him the cash right away. He said, "If you can get us to Yanbian, it's all yours." Jong-il smiled. "No problem at all." He gave them a quick breakfast and told them to change clothes. Jen looked confused. He said, "What's wrong with our clothes? They're stylish." "Stylish? Yeah, you look like you just walked out a magazine. If you dress like that, you will get caught in 5 minutes. Put on something a farmer would wear." So after some convincing, they finally changed into old baggy farmer clothes. Jong-il said, "All right, I will take you to the bus station. Once you get on, just pretend to sleep. Make sure you don't talk. Sometimes soldiers get on, check IDs. If they do, just keep your eyes closed and don't move." North Koreans usually look thin, scared, half-starved, but you two look fresh. So you will be fine as long as you stay quiet. Jen asked nervously, "Are you sure? What if they try and talk to us?" Jong-il shrugged. "Relax. This is Yanbian. Lots of people don't speak Chinese. No one is going to question that. If they ask you guys, I will chime in and help you out." On the bus, Jen and Yongmin were shaking. Every time the bus slowed down, their heartbeats stopped for a second. For a while, the bus reached a checkpoint. Soldiers climbed aboard with big leather boots, stomping down the aisle. Jen and Yongmin leaned on each other, pretending to sleep. They didn't dare to open their eyes. The soldier looked around, then got off. They exhaled all at once, half laughing, half crying. Even Jong-il laughed and said, "See? I told you guys would be fine." But then he added, "There is another checkpoint ahead. Sometimes they check, sometimes they don't. So let's hope you are lucky twice." Jen's heart dropped again. But their luck held. The second checkpoint didn't even stop the bus. They made it through. Jong-il later admitted he wasn't new to this. He had helped North Korean defectors before. On top of $700, there was another reason he agreed to help. His nephew worked with South Korean intelligence. Basically, he acted as a middleman, helping smuggle valuable information and the people out of North Korea for a reward. On the bus, Jen couldn't stop staring at everything around him. Even though this was just a border town, the people looked very much alive. The farmers had round faces, clean clothes, even gold jewelry. Some women had dyed hair, makeup, gold necklace. To him, that was shocking. In Pyongyang, even the rich wouldn't dare to wear gold or color their hair. He whispered to Yongmin, "Hey, this is incredible. Even Chinese farmer lives better than officials in Pyongyang." When they reached the edge of Yanbian City, the bus stopped. Jong-il turned to them and said, "All right, this is it. You are in Yanbian now. My job is done. From here on, you are safe. No more checkpoints, and I will see you guys." But Jang Jin-sung grabbed his arm. "Brother, please, don't leave us just yet. We don't even know where to go." Jong-il looked shocked. "What? You came all the way from North Korea and you don't even know where you are going?" Yongmin quickly put out an envelope and said, "I have a relative in this area. Can you take us there?" Jong-il took a look at the address and his face lit up. "Oh, this guy is rich. All right then, I will help you one more time. Come stay at my mother-in-law's place for the night. We'll figure it out tomorrow." So that night, they followed Jong-il to his mother-in-law's house. Surprisingly, the old lady wasn't scared or suspicious at all. She welcomed them, gave them food, asked them, "Are you cold? Are you hungry?" She was so warm and kind. For a moment, they finally felt safe. But that didn't last long. Not long after they sat down, Jong-il's phone rang. It was his wife. Her voice was shaking. She said, "These two men you brought home this morning, something's wrong with them. The police and border patrols just came by looking for them. They said those two are North Korean serial killers who escaped across the river. Jang-il froze. What? He dropped the phone and turned to them. So, you two are serial killers? Jan and Jong-il were stunned. They shouted, "Look at us! Do we look like killers? We didn't murder anybody, they're just framing us." But Jang-il started to get nervous. He said, "You two don't look like normal North Korean. And that $700? No one from North Korea has that kind of money. Tell me the truth, who the hell are you?" At that point, Jan realized he had no choice. He had to tell the truth, or at least part of it, to earn Jang-il's trust. He took a deep breath and said, "Actually, we're not ordinary people. We worked for the highest level of the government. My friend here was in the unification department, and I was part of propaganda and the culture division. We have both met Kim Jong-il in person. My friend's grandmother fought alongside Kim Il-sung. She was even in the textbook. And me, I was Kim Jong-il's personal poet." Jang-il was like, "What the f*** I just heard?" He stared at them, speechless, and then said, "Damn, I was just trying to make some extra cash, but I accidentally picked up 2 VIPs from Pyongyang, I guess." But before he could pour another drink to celebrate, his phone rang again, and it was his wife again. Her voice was panicked. "Bad news. The police came and now they're heading to my mom's house." Jang-il immediately turned pale. He whispered, "This is bad. We have to go." But where could they go? It was freezing outside and the soldiers were already nearby. Then Jang-il suddenly had an idea. He said, "Listen, in China we have a saying, the darkest place is right under the lamp. So we don't have to run into the mountains, you will freeze to death there. There is a small shed across the street, go hide in there." The two men followed him, and when they got inside, they realized the shed is really about to fall apart. Jang-il whispered, "Just stay quiet." Then he closed the door and locked it from the outside. Inside the pitch-dark shed, Jan's heart sank. He whispered, "What if he's selling us out?" At that point, there is nothing they could do. All they can do was pray that Jang-il was a good man. And luckily, they were right. A few minutes later, a police car pulled up outside. Officers got out and started questioning Jang-il. He said something quick, waved his hand, acted casual. After a few minutes, the police left. Jang-il came back, and he unlocked the door and said proudly, "See, I told you guys you'll be fine. But you will have to stay here for a few more days. At this moment, it's too risky to go to a relative's house. The police are probably already there. Even my mother-in-law's place is being watched. So here's the plan. Just stay here in the shed for 3 to 5 days. When my nephew, the one who works with South Korean intelligence, comes back, he will help get you across to South Korea." Since there was no other option, they stayed. To his credit, Jang-il really took care of them. Every day he brought beef, dumpling, hot water, even some alcohol, 3 times a day. But still, every minute felt like torture for them. 2 days later, on the 3rd night, Jan heard footsteps outside. He looked through a crack in the door and saw flashlights. Several police officers were right outside of the shed, shining lights through the cracks. "Oh boy, they found us," he whispered. Jong-il didn't even have time to put on his shoes. He was grabbed by Jan, and the two of them bolted out the back. They climbed the wall and ran into the mountains, barefoot in the dark. The temperature was around -30 degrees Celsius. Jong-il's feet were bleeding from the ice. They found a small cave and hid inside. Jan pressed his chest against Jong-il's feet to keep them warm, and that's how they survived the night. The next morning, they somehow made it back to Jang-il's mother-in-law's house. When he opened the door, he looked completely shocked. "You two are still alive? I thought you guys been caught. If not, I thought you would froze to death." Then he sighed and said, "You know who ratted you out? That woman, the first one you met. The one who pointed us to your house? Yeah, she called the police right after you left." The problem is that the shed was no longer safe, but his nephew still hadn't returned. So Jang-il told them, "You will have to go back into the mountains. Hide there for another day or 2. You North Koreans are tough. -30 degrees shouldn't be a problem, right?" He brought them blankets, beef, liquor, and hot water, and said, "Find a spot behind the hill where the wind doesn't hit you." A few hours later, Jang-il came back again. He said, "Hey, one more thing. Don't fall asleep tonight. I just checked the weather. It's gonna hit -30. If you sleep, you will die." Then he ran off. An hour later, he came back again. "Oh, there's another thing. Don't light a fire. If you do, someone will spot the smoke and you are down." They survived by drinking alcohol and talking through the night. They talked about their childhoods, the girl they liked, the first time they saw the ocean, their dreams, their regrets. Pretty much everything. Two men freezing in the mountain shared the warmest nights of their lives. During one of those talks, Jen realized something. When the police came that night, Yong-min had been the last one to leave the shed. He asked him why. Yong-min smiled faintly and said, "I was looking for your poems. Those pages, they are your life. I couldn't leave them behind." So basically he risked his life and his feet just for Jen's poem. That's how deep their friendship has become. Few days later, Jang Yong showed up again, this time with his nephew, a man in his 30s named Shin Guang-he. Shin Guang-he looked sharper than his uncle. Short leather jacket, city haircut, confident vibe. He spoke in cold, official tone, immediately grilling them. Name, age, where you from, why did you defect? He took a lot of notes, registered their information, and then made a phone call. About an hour later, a car arrived to pick them up. Before they left, Jang Jin-sung turned to Jang Yong and said, "Brother Jang, thank you. I will never forget what you did for us." Jang Yong smiled and said, "You got lucky this time, but no problem. Take care of yourselves." Then he leaned in and whispered, "Oh, that's $700? Don't mention it to my nephew. Okay, bye-bye." And that's the last time they saw Jang Yong. Shin Guang-he took them to the city. First stop, a bathhouse. In China, there is something called a bathhouse. Kind of like a mix between public spa, a sauna, a social club. People go there to bath, get a massage, relax, or just hang out with friends. When Jan and Yong-min walked in, they were stunned. They said, even the nicest hotel we have been to Pyongyang didn't look this good. And what shocked them most is that the bathhouse had hot water available 24 hours a day. In Pyongyang, even high-ranking officials only get hot water twice a day. From 7 to 9 in the morning, and again 7 to 9 at the night. Ordinary citizens, they're lucky to have anything at all. Most people use these old-fashioned solar water bags, basically plastic sacks you leave on your roof to heat under the sun. Which means good luck taking a hot shower in the winter. So yeah, for them, a bathhouse with endless hot water felt like heaven. After the bath, Shin Guang-he took them to a karaoke bar. At first, he just wanted to see them embarrass themselves, because most North Korean defectors had never seen a microphone before. Some even thought it was a weapon. But to his surprise, these two grabbed the mic like pros, singing, dancing, totally at ease. Shin Guang-he was shocked. He said, "You two are definitely not like the others." Jen smiled. In Pyongyang, seeing karaoke bar is luxury entertainment. $10 for the night. That's 5 months' salary for normal people. But for people like Jen, that was just another Friday night. After eating and drinking, Shin Guang-he took them to his place in Yanbian to stay. The next morning, he suddenly got very serious. He said, "Listen, if I'm going to get you to South Korea, you have to give me useful intelligence. If your info is useless to Seoul, there's no way I can help you." Jen felt like he was taking the most important task of his life. He thought hard. He knew he couldn't tell everything, but he also had to give the right highlights to make it interesting enough. He carefully picked 2 big pieces of intel. One he called special operations strategy. The other he called localization training. Both were massive state secrets in North Korea. So what's a special operations strategy? North Korea would go to other countries and kidnap little kids on purpose. They keep them as hostages. They use those hostages to influence other countries. So what do I mean by that? For example, a schoolmate of Jan was taken from Japan. Her mother was Korean, and her father was a powerful Japanese businessman. When the girl was a teen, they forced her into North Korea. Her father was then pressured to do Pyongyang's bidding in Japan. And this is just an example and one of the many stories. The second secret, even more disturbing, is called localization operations. The term sounds pretty boring, but the practice is cruel. They abduct foreign women of different races and bring them to Pyongyang. They force them to have children with North Korean men. Those kids don't look like typical North Koreans. They might be mixed race, look white, or black, or something else. So North Korea trains those children from birth, and turns them into spies to steal intelligence from other countries after they grow up. Another version is sending North Korean women abroad. Let those women have children with the locals. The kid comes back to North Korea and get trained to become agents too. And these ideas, according to Jan, many of them came directly from Kim Jong-il himself. When Shin Guang-he heard this, he was stunned. He said, "This is huge. You really know something important." He suddenly looked at Jan with new respect. Then Shin introduced himself properly. "I'm Shin Guang-he, 32 years old. I've been an informant for South Korean intelligence for 5 years. The quiet woman over there is my wife. She is also a defector from North Korea. Xing is a really nice guy. Maybe because his wife was North Korean, he had a natural trust towards North Korean defectors. He gathered all their documents and notes, and sent everything up his chain. He said, expect news in 5 to 7 days. We're gonna get you to South Korea very soon. While they were waiting for news, one day 3 North Koreans showed up at Shin Kwang-he's house. They were also defectors from North Korea. When Jang saw them all with dyed hair, Jang got curious. He asked, why did you all dye your hair? One of them said, the first thing every woman does after escaping to China is dye her hair. We want to look less North Korean and more like locals. They started drinking, chatting, laughing a bit. Then Jong-il noticed one of the girls looked especially young, maybe just 15 or 16. She was holding a baby in her arms. He smiled and asked gently, where's the baby's mother? The girl froze. Then she threw her drink right at his face. Mother? She shouted. I'm the mother. Jong-il was stunned. How old are you? She said quietly, 16. At this moment, the room went silent. Here's the case. All 3 girls had escaped North Korea only to fall into another kind of hell. A human trafficking ring operated along the border. They targeted North Korean women. Each girl could be sold for $10,000 to $15,000, sometimes 20. The first girl had been sold to a farmer when she was 14. He was in his 40s, unmarried, and using his life savings to buy her. He raped her, got her pregnant. When she finally escaped at 16, she ran straight into Shin Kwang-he, who took her in. The second girl had been sold to a rural family. Not just the husband, the father and the younger brother too. 3 men in one house. They took turns assaulting her. Finally, a kind neighbor couldn't stand it anymore. He broke her chain and helped her escape. A side note, when I'm saying the chain, I literally mean the physical chains. When she was rescued by the neighbor, she was tied up by using a chain in the basement of the house. The third girl's story was even more horrific. She had been trafficked to Tianjin, forced into online sex work, live streams, nude videos for 2 or 3 years. She was paid about $15 a month. When her boss decided she was no longer profitable, he planned to sell her again. Maybe to a brothel, maybe for her organs. But somehow she escaped during the transfer, fled back to the border region again, only to be caught by Chinese police. Jong-il asked her, do you hate the Chinese police? She shook her head. No, Chinese police still have some humanity. One officer had told her, it's my job to arrest you, but I don't want to send you back. He secretly gave her 100 yuan, about $15 US, and said, I'm sorry. But when she was sent back to North Korea, the difference was night and day. The Chinese handcuffs were clean and smooth. The North Korean ones were rusted, heavy, and sharp. She was thrown into a labor camp. Guards stripped them naked. They checked their bodies, even inside, to make sure they were not hiding money. Everything she had from China was confiscated, even the 100 yuan the police officer gave her. For defectors, punishment depends entirely on luck and timing. Sometimes they kept you for a few months, sometimes for life. It all depends on the guard's mood. And she was lucky. She got out after a few months. And she ran again, across the frozen river, back into China, back to Yanbian. Escaping from North Korea isn't all about courage. Sometimes it's about luck. Some survive because the guards decide not to shoot that day. Others die because they do. Just a year before Jang escaped, dozens of bodies were found floating down the Tumen River, all shot while trying to flee. The world protested. Chinese government condemned the brutality. That's probably why Jang and Jong-il managed to escape when they did. That time was probably during one of those rare soft periods. That night, after hearing the girls' stories, they all drank heavily. They didn't say much, just kept pouring glass after glass. By midnight, they were all drunk. And by morning, they had gone their separate ways, and they never saw each other again. They waited at Shin Kwang-he's house for about a week. That wait should have been long enough, but there was still no word from Seoul. Shin tried calling his contact. The phone went straight to an empty number. He panicked. Either that contact ran or he was arrested. Shin had no idea, and he started to worry. There was another problem. Shin didn't have much money. Everything he had came from his handlers. He couldn't support the two of them much longer. They needed the next move fast. Jong-il got restless. He forgot what Zhang wore them and pulled out the big envelope. Here, my relative Yanbian. Can we try him? Shin took a look of the address and agreed. Okay, let's check him out. We'll take a taxi. They stopped on the quiet street. Shin got out alone to scout. He walked up to the house. It was a fancy place, a single house with a yard. He rang the bell. A young Korean Chinese man picked out. Xing said, "I have 2 men are your relatives here in Yanbian. Do you want to see them?" The young man froze. He was actually Yongming's distant cousin. Then he said something shocking. He said, "I've never met them. They are wanted. Everyone in this area already knows about them." He warned, "The Chinese police have been hanging around for the past couple of days. Maybe even North Korean agents too. You should get out immediately. Don't cause any trouble." Then he slammed the door. Xing looked around. Far away, he thought he saw people watching, like agents. He felt a cold fear. Then he ran back to the taxi. "Let's go!" he yelled to the taxi driver. "Your cousin sold you out. There are watchers. You can't stay here. And now I'm exposed. I will have to run as well." However, before they left, Xing had provided them one last idea. "I'm sorry that I can't host you guys forever, but here's the tip. Contact a Korean church. They sometimes help." Then he handed them 100 yuan, which is about $15. They couldn't go into the center city since they were wanted. So they just walked along the outskirts, through small towns, empty roads, barely any people around. They saw a few churches. Some were closed, others refused to let them in. People could tell right away they were from North Korea and would just shut the door in front of their face without a word. They wandered like that for about 3 days. The 100 yuan they had was almost gone, and now they're starving and have nowhere to go. At this moment, they only have 10 yuan left. With that last bit of money, Yongming bought a razor blade. He said, "I think that's it. Tonight, maybe we should just end things here." But right when they thought there was no way out, fate gave them another chance. They were walking by the road, and then they saw an old man who looks very kind and with gentle eyes. They hesitated, then knocked on his door. They knew everyone in Yanbian had already heard the news. 2 killers on the run from North Korea. But they were betting on this old man is not going to sell them. But when the old man saw them, said nothing, and just closed the door. Jan panicked and shouted, "Sir, please, we just want to wash our face." The door opened again. The old man led them into the yard, brought out a big basin, poured in some hot water. "Go ahead, wash up yourself." While they were washing, he looked at them and said, "I've seen many people escape from the north. But you two, you are the first ones who asked to wash your face. Most people beg for food or money. Some even try to rob me. But you two talked politely and act very differently. I know who you are. Actually, everybody in this area knows. You are the 2 accused of murder, right?" They froze. No, sir, we're not killers," Jen said. The old man smiled kindly. "I'm over 70. I can tell you guys are not killers." He went to the kitchen and brought out 2 big bowls of rice and some side dishes. They were so moved and said, "Sir, please let us help you. We can sweep the floor or wash the dishes." The old man waved his hand. No need. Just tell me, what do you plan to do next?" They said, "We want to go to South Korea." The old man nodded. "Listen, I know a pastor at a church in Yanji. He's a good man. Take this name card and go find him. I'm sure he will help you." He gave them some money for the bus and even drew them a detailed map. When they arrived, the church wasn't really a church. It was on the 3rd floor of an office building run by South Koreans. When they went in, the people there took one look and knew immediately they're North Koreans. Right away, they tried to throw them out. Jan and Yongming begged, "Please, we need help. We have nowhere else to go. You are our people. We are the same blood." But one of the South Koreans snapped, "Who's your people? Get out. Because of people like you, the police already raided us several times. If you don't leave right now, we'll call the cops." They dropped to their knees, crying, begging, but it didn't matter. They were kicked out again. Now they were completely out of options. Starving, freezing, wandering around the outskirts of Yanbian. No food, no money, nowhere to go. They thought maybe they could find another farmer to take them in. But then they remembered their names were already on the wanted list. The poster said 2 escaped killers. So Jen said, "If that's how it is, we should split up. If we stay together, people will recognize us right away." So they decided to separate. There was a small hill with a big tree. One would go to the village on the left and the other to the right. Whoever found the shelter first would come back to the tree. If not, they would also come back and meet under that tree again. Maybe Jan already had a feeling, he didn't know why, but watching Yongming walk away, he felt this heavy sadness, like he was saying goodbye forever. Jan went toward the village on the left. He didn't dare knock on any doors, just hid and watched from a distance. It was freezing cold, his hands were numb. Even the dogs barked like crazy when they saw him. He finally crawled into a cowshed, wrapped him up with some straw, and somehow made it through the night. The next morning, an old woman kicked him awake. "Hey, I know who you are. The police searched the next village yesterday. You better run before they come here." She is nice. She didn't report him. Still, that means the next village had already been searched, which also means Yong-min was in danger. He ran straight back to the hill, but no one was there. He waited for an hour, then 2, then the whole morning. No signs of Yong-min. He was freezing and starving, and thought, if I stay here any longer, I will die by tonight. So he dragged himself back to the old man's house, the same one who had helped them before. By the time he got there, he was almost crawling, because he hadn't eaten anything in days. The old man opened the door, shocked. "Why do you guys come back? Where's your friend?" "Oh, he's gone. I lost him," Jen said weakly. "What about the church?" the old man asked. "They threw us out," Jen whispered. The old man's face turned dark with anger. He slammed the table. "That pastor, I can't believe he treats you like that. Such a shame." Then he sighed and said softly, "Don't worry, son. I leave alone. You can stay here and rest. Hide for now. If your friend is still alive, I'm sure he will come back for you." That old man was truly kind. Every day he cooked for Jang Jin-sung, rice, vegetable, whatever he had. But 3 days passed and still no sign of Yong-min. So Jen called their old contact Shin Guanghe. The moment he picked up, Shin shouted, "Jen, you have got wrong. My uncle Jong-il has already been arrested. I'm in the process of packing. I'm getting out of here too. The whole thing has blown up. If you stay in Yanbian any longer, you will be caught for sure." Jen asked, "Where should I go?" Shin said, "Go to Shenyang. It's a big city, much safer than here." So basically Shenyang is the capital and the largest city of the China's northeast Liaoning province. But Jen had 2 problems. First, he had no money. Second, what about his friend Yong-min? Shin sighed and said, "Actually, Yong-min came to see me a few days ago. He begged me to contact his relatives again. He couldn't believe they would really cut him off like that. He thought maybe his cousin would reject him, but his uncle, there's no way. So I secretly called his uncle. The moment his uncle heard the news, he broke down crying, saying he really wanted to help him out. When Yong-min heard that, he just took off. I tried to stop him, he wouldn't listen. Now I don't know where he is. Maybe he made it, maybe he was caught. You can't wait any longer, Jen. Go to Shenyang first. If I hear from him, I will tell him to meet you there." At that point, Jen had no choice. He had to leave. But the problem? He has no money. He didn't want to ask the old man for anything, because he has already done too much for him. Then he remembered something. He had once given Jong-il $700. Now he's thinking that he might be able to get some of that back. But let's be real. Why would Jong-il give back the money he already got? That's where Jen's quick thinking came in. He called Jong-il's house. Jang was already arrested. Only his wife answered. She picked the phone and immediately started yelling, "This is all your fault. Because of you, my husband has been taken away." Then she said something very interesting. They said if they find out we took money, we'll be fined 20 times that amount. Jen's mind clicked instantly. He said, 20 times. That's $14,000. You don't want that, do you? Then he lowered his voice. "Listen, I might get arrested very soon. And if I do, I will have to tell them about the $700 I gave you. But if you send me a small part of it, let's just say $100, this money will help me run to Shenyang and then to South Korea. I will not get arrested, no one will know. You will be safe, and we both will be fine." She hesitated, then sighed, "Okay, fine." And she really did. She sent the money through Shin Guanghe. Later, Shin Guanghe met Jen at the train station. He handed him 800 yuan, which is equivalent to $100. Jen was deeply moved. He thought this man keeps his word, a kind and truly trustworthy guy. Jen split the money in half. He said, "I will take 400 for myself, and if Yong-min comes back, give him the other 400 so he can get to Shenyang." But he was overthinking it. 800 yuan might sound like a fortune in North Korea, but in China, it barely got you anywhere. So after he bought a train ticket to Shenyang, he only had maybe a few dozen yuan left, not even enough for food. The old man, the one who had helped him before, was kind to the end. Before Jen left, he stuffed 5 steamed bun into his hand. That's what kept Jen alive for the next 2 days. When he finally arrived in Shenyang, he had nothing left, no money and no plan. But while sitting on the train, he flipped through a travel magazine and saw a phone number, the South Korean consulate in Shenyang. He had only a few coins left, but he thought, this is my last shot. So he went to a public phone and called. "Hello, is this the South Korean consulate?" The man on the line said, "Yes, how can I help you?" Jen said, I'm from North Korea and I want to go to South Korea. The line went dead. He thought the phone had broken, so he called again. Hello, maybe you didn't hear me clearly. I escaped from North Korea and I want to go to South Korea. This time the voice on the other end snapped. This line isn't secure. Don't say that here. Then the man continued. We're just the Shenyang consulate. We can bring you to South Korea, and if you want help, go to the embassy in Beijing. Jen pressed. Then how do I get there? Who do I contact? The man said sharply, do you think I can tell you that over the phone? I wish you the best luck, but we can't help. Click. The line went dead again. Jen just stood there staring at the phone. He couldn't believe it. These were supposed to be his own people, and yet they turned him away. With his last single yuan, he tried calling again. This time, no one even picked up. He was broke, alone, completely hopeless. But Jang Jin-sung wasn't the type to give up easily, and he was really sharp. He knew Shenyang was different from Yanbian. There were not many ethnic Koreans here. So he thought, if I'm going to survive, I need to find one of my own people. First, because of the language. He couldn't speak Chinese. Second, because he believed a fellow Korean would never turn him away. But here's the question. How do you even know who is a Korean in a city like Shenyang? Jan came up with a wild idea. He went to a busy shopping center and started quietly muttering in Korean. Sir, miss, excuse me, over and over, as people walked past him, testing who would react. He spent the whole morning doing this, but finally a beautiful young woman turned around and replied in Korean. Do you need help with anything? Jen nearly burst into tears. Yes, he said. Please give me 5 minutes. Let me tell you my story. The woman frowned and cautious. You're not a scammer, are you? He shook his head. Please, I swear, I'm not lying. Just listen to my story. So he told her everything. That he had escaped from Pyongyang, that he had nothing left, that he didn't know where to go. And he was just asking for a little help. Maybe some food, or train fare, or anything. The woman listened quietly. Then she said, all right, actually my father used to help North Korean defectors like you. She thought for a moment and said, you know what? I have 2 tickets to a public bathhouse. I was supposed to go there tonight with my boyfriend, but I guess fate had another plan. You can stay there for 2 nights. Before she left, she even bought him 4 meat pies. Here, she said, eat this at the bathhouse. Jan was deeply moved. At the bathhouse, he finally got a good night's sleep for the first time in days. The next day, something unexpected happened. That girl came back. She had taken a bath too, then walked into a public lounge area where he was. Jen stood up surprised. Miss, why are you here? She smiled. I was worried you might not have food, so I brought you some. She handed him a few meat pies. Her name, he learned, was Wang Qiulin. They talked for hours about North Korea, about society, and about her life in China. She was curious, warm, and kind. At one point, Wang Qiulin asked him, I heard that during the famine years, people in North Korea even ate other people. Is that true? Jen sighed. I didn't see that myself. I lived in Pyongyang and things were not that extreme there. But even in Pyongyang, I once saw something I will never forget. He told her a story called 100 won for a girl. It happened around the year 2000. Jen had gone to a market in Pyongyang. There was a woman standing in the center of the crowd, thin, pale, holding her little daughter by the hand. Around the girl's neck hung a sign. It says, 100 won and she is yours. People stopped and stared. Some shouted angrily, how could you sell your own daughter for just 100 won? That's barely enough to buy a small bag of bread. But then the little girl suddenly burst into tears and said, please don't yell at my mother. My father is dead and my mom is very sick. She is just trying to help me survive. The crowd went silent. Some even tried to hand the woman money, but she kept her fist clenched tight and refused to take it. Then a market inspector came, waving a stick. He yelled, your act is disgracing socialism, and started beating the woman again and again until she started bleeding. Right there, a tall military officer, a lieutenant, walked over. He kicked the inspector away and shouted, you coward, stop hitting her. He listened to the people explain what was happening, and then quietly pulled 100 won from his pocket and handed to the mother. I understand, don't worry. I will take care of her, I promise. The mother took the money, walked through the crowd, and disappeared. 5 minutes later, she came back holding a torn, dirty bag of bread. She knelt down in front of her daughter, and piece by piece fed her the bread. She whispered, I'm sorry, this is your last meal from me. When she finished, both mother and daughter were crying. Then without another word, the mother vanished into the crowd. Yeah, she just wanted to find someone who could take care of her daughter. And personally, I have read so many stories about North Korea, but that one certainly hit me the hardest. And when Jen finished the story, Wang Qiuling was crying uncontrollably. She had grown up in Shenyang in a wealthy family and never heard anything like this. Through tears, she said, "I promise, someday I will help you escape to South Korea. But right now you need money. Do you have any skill? Anything you can do to earn a little?" She told him if you can make some money, it will be much easier to escape. After thinking for a long time, Jen said, "When I was little, I studied the arts. I can play the piano." Wang Qiuling's eyes lit up. "Wait, you know how to play classic music? That's perfect. My uncle is a rich businessman here in Shenyang, super wealthy. But his son is a total disappointment. He has been looking everywhere for a private piano instructor." She leaned in closer. "If you can really play, I will take you to him. I'm sure you will make good money." So she brought him to her uncle's house in Shenyang's famous Shita district, the second largest Korean community in China. Korean signs, Korean restaurants are everywhere. Almost everybody speaking in Korean. It almost feels like a home again. Upon arrival, her uncle's mansion blew Jen's mind. A massive single house, marble floor, the kind you only see in Kim Jong-il's palaces. The uncle, around the middle-aged man, didn't seem very impressed at first. He said, "So you can play piano? Why don't you just show me?" The piano looked fancy, but it looks like no one had touched it for years. The pedal was stiff and rusty. Still, Jen sat down and began to play Richard Clayderman's Autumn Whispers. The melody was smooth, calm, like running water. For a professional, it wasn't a difficult piece, but to their ears, it was magic. When he finished, both Wang Qiuling and her uncle were speechless. The uncle said, "I can't believe this. A man from North Korea who plays like that." Instantly, his tone changed. He stood up and shook Jen's hand. "From now on, I will call you Mr. Jen." Then he said quietly, "I have met many people from North Korea. Most of them are here for better lives. But you didn't come here just to eat. Who are you, really?" Jen told him everything, who he was, where he came from, his escape story. The uncle was stunned, but instead of fear, he showed admiration. "Don't worry," he said, "you can stay here. Teach my son and I will pay you daily." But he paused. "My son is not easy to teach." Then he looked at Jen and asked, "Tell me honestly, can piano really change a person's character?" Jen gave a very thoughtful answer, and it was something incredibly smart. He said, "When a child learns which note sounds harmonious and which sounds wrong, he will start to understand life's rules and where the boundary of his own soul begins." The uncle stared at him for a long moment, then laughed in amazement. "That is the most amazing thing I have ever heard. Yes, you are hired." The rich uncle's son was named Wang Hu, around 11 or 12 years old. He was actually Wang Qiuling's cousin. But this kid was a total menace. Spoiled, violent, a little tyrant. Forget about studying. Every day he played with his toy guns and wooden sticks. And his mom unbelievably disciplined him with one rule. She had to hold a kitchen knife in one hand and a stick in the other. Jen was shocked. What kind of mother teaches her 11-year-old son like that? She sighed and lifted her pants leg, showing a long scar on her thigh. "If you don't hold the knife, he will grab it and he will use it on me. Last time I tried to discipline him," she said, "he grabbed the knife and slashed me." Jen couldn't believe it. He had never seen a child like this wild. And when he started teaching Wang Hu piano, Wang Qiuling always sat nearby to translate, because Wang Hu only spoke Chinese. The boy didn't care at all. He would pound the random keys, stomp on the pedal, even kick the piano. Still, Jen stayed patient. Bit by bit, through coaxing and persistence, he managed to teach the boy with a few simple tunes. That alone amazed Wang Hu's father. He said, "Finally, someone who can control this kid." But that didn't last long. Wang Hu was a total brat, short-tempered, spoiled, and mean. One day, Wang Hu started acting up again. Jen and Wang Qiuling tried to stop him. But suddenly, the boy lunged at his cousin, grabbed her, and even touched her chest. Jen was furious. He would never seen such behavior. He yanked the boy away and shoved him outside the door. "Get out!" he yelled. Wang Hu cursed him in Chinese, shouting filthy words. Jen later said Wang Hu might have been the worst person he ever met in China. After that incident, Wang Hu ran straight into the police and reported them. He told the officers, "My dad is hiding a North Korean," and led the police to their house. The cop, upon arrival, shouting at Jang, "Show me your ID." Jang stayed calm. He went to his room pretending to look for papers. But in his mind, he was ready to jump out the window. He thought, if I die, at least they can't take me alive. Then he heard a noise and shouting outside. Wang Qiuling was actually fighting with the police. She was pushing them, trying to stall for time. She screamed, "Wrong, wrong!" Jang didn't hesitate. He bolted out the door and disappeared. But now he had nowhere to go. He couldn't go back to Wang Qiuling's house anymore. At this moment, the only person he could still trust was Xin Guanghe. So he picked up the phone and called him again. But when the call finally connected, Xin Guanghe gave him a devastating news. He said, "Yang Ming is dead." A few days earlier, Yang Ming had been caught at his uncle's house. Apparently, he had been wandering nearby for a week, watching from a distance, too scared to go in. After a week of hesitation, he finally decided to approach. But the moment he stepped through the gate, the police were there waiting. They arrested him on the spot and shoved him into the police car. Halfway down the road, Yang Ming told the police he needs to use the bathroom. Then they stopped. He ran outside the car and jumped off a cliff. Jang just sat there in silence. The words hit him like a rock in the chest. Then Xin Guanghe said, "I can't help you anymore. I'm in danger myself. You are on your own now. Please take care of yourself." And with that, he hung up. When Jang heard that Yang Ming was dead, he fell into deep grief. But he couldn't stop running. If he wanted to reach the South Korean embassy in Beijing, he first needed money, even just enough for train tickets. But right now, he had only a few yuan left, not even enough for food. But he remembered Wang Qiuling once mentioning a famous Korean restaurant in Shenyang called Qinghuilou. Rumor had it that the owner was a respected man, known for helping defectors from the north. So Jang decided to take a chance. When he arrived, he told the server, "I would like to speak to the owner." For this time, he didn't repeat the old story about escaping from Pyongyang. He felt that wouldn't be convincing anymore. Instead, he made up a lie that he thought was clever. The owner, a man in his 40s, came out yawning. He took one look at Jang and said, "You are hungry, aren't you? Guys, make some food for this guy." But Jang quickly replied, "Sir, I didn't come here to ask for food. I came here to talk business." The owner paused. "Oh, business? Okay, stop making the food." That caught Jang off guard. He froze for a moment, thinking, "What? Please don't cancel the food." But then he said, "Sir, have you heard of a big South Korean company, a mattress manufacturer? The CEO's name is Mr. Ong, and he was actually born in North Korea. After the war, he fled to the South. And that man is my uncle." The owner raised an eyebrow. "Okay, what does that have to do with me?" Jang smiled nervously. "You don't know, sir. My uncle sent me here to inherit part of the family business. That's why I came from the north." The owner chuckled but said nothing. Jang panicked a little and he continued. "I heard your reputation here in Shenyang, that you are a good man, a real brother to your people. I just need your help to get to Beijing. Once I'm there, I will just go to a local branch office and I will pay you tenfold." The owner just kept smiling. He said, "All right then, a train ticket from Shenyang to Beijing costs around 250 yuan. Since you called me brother of Shita district, I will add another 100 yuan for pocket money. Take 350 total." Then he said, "Have some food before you leave." Jang was overwhelmed. He stood up, bowed deeply, and said, "Sir, I will never forget this. I will always remember Qinghuilou." The owner smiled and said, "At least eat something first." But Jang didn't. He just turned around, bowed again, and walked out the door. By the way, Qinghuilou is still open in Shenyang today. And if the same owner is still alive, he would be in his 60s now. He took the money and finally he could go to Beijing. But he knew you can't just walk into South Korean embassy just like that. So inside Qinghuilou, he noticed a South Korean newspaper on the counter. He found a number from the newsroom and called. "Hey, I'm the defector from North Korea," he said. "I used to work from the United Front Department. I have a critical intelligence, top secret information. But I can't stay here in Shenyang. I need to be in Beijing. You have to send a reporter to meet me there." The editor on the other end said, "All right, I will contact someone right away," and then gave him a phone number. Jang hung up and dialed the number. A man answered. "That's a reporter." "What kind of information do you have?" he asked. Jang said, "I can't tell you over the phone, but once I get to Beijing, I will tell you something really big. And after I get to South Korea, you will have an exclusive." The reporter scoffed. "Hey, I'm not intelligence. I can't get you to South Korea." Jang pressed him. "You are a journalist. You know people. You must have good connections." Then Jang said something very powerful. He told the reporter, "You can just hang up the phone and go back to your normal life. But if I hang up, only option I have is death. Just think about that." It took him around 8 hours to get to Beijing by bus. When he arrived, he called the reporter again. The reporter said nothing except this. "Look to your 10 o'clock. See a power pole? Underneath is a trash can. There is a black plastic bag inside. Go grab it." Jang froze. That means he was being watched. Someone was nearby. He went to the trash can, dug around, found the black bag, and inside there is a cell phone. He picked it up. A voice said on the other end, "Now getting a taxi. Go to a major hotel in Beijing. Once you arrive, sit in the cafe on the first floor. Order a drink and wait 5 minutes. Someone will come to you." So he did. He waited, heart pounding. Then a man walked in, older, calm, sharply dressed. He looked like a senior South Korean intelligence officer. The agent sat down and said politely, "Please confirm your identity, Mr. Jang. Show me your papers." Jang tensed up because he had no documents. He said, "You know who I am? You know I have no documents, and you know what I know. Do you think we still need proof?" The agent hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "All right, let's go." They stepped outside. A black Mercedes was waiting. Jang got in, sitting in the middle, one agent on each side. The car pulled away. They said they were heading to the embassy. But the whole time, Jang couldn't shake off a feeling of paranoid. He thought, what if they're not South Koreans, but North Koreans? The fear gripped him tighter and tighter. His mind just spun in circles. Then the car stopped. The moment he stepped out, he saw a flagpole with the South Korean flag fluttering above. And that, my friend, is the story of our author Jang Jin-sung, once Kim Jong-il's favorite poet. Even today, hundreds of North Koreans still risk their lives crossing that same border. Some make it, most don't. But Jang, he was definitely one of the lucky ones. Along the way, he met a lot of good people who were willing to help him. And after reaching South Korea, he wrote down everything you just have heard, and had become one of the most iconic North Korean defectors in the world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, hype, and subscribe. With that, I will see you in the next one.